Hi everyone, so welcome to part 3 of our mini-series about pelvic floor muscles. Yesterday we spoke about what pelvic floor muscles are, where you can find them in the body and the function that they serve. Today I want to talk to you about some of the risk factors, so what kind of things can make the pelvic muscles weaken and what kind of people are probably most at risk of this happening. So the people most at risk, as you might expect, are pregnant women. The growing weight of the baby is just bearing down on the bladder, which is pressing into the pelvic floor muscles, so those muscles are being kind of put under additional strain there. And then during childbirth, women who have a natural birth or a vaginal birth, those muscles have then obviously got to stretch around the vagina in order for the baby to come out and be born. And so those muscles are going to be stretched and weakened during childbirth as well. So if you're in that category, you'll know about that, you'll know what the experience of that is, but that is something that is the most common reason for pelvic floor muscles weakening in women. But something else that people are less aware of are people who've had to have any kind of gynecological surgery if you're a woman, or prostate surgery if you are a man. I mean, if you have experienced that already, no doubt your surgeon or your GP will have had a chat with you about that, and you may already have experienced some of those things. But maybe you are a woman or a man getting a little bit older, and those are issues that are now coming into play a little bit more in your health and that you might want to be aware of. And as always, the stronger your pelvic floor muscles are to start with, the less ground you have to travel if they do become weakened for any particular reason. But these are kind of the top end there, the highest risk categories. But there are lots of other slightly lower risk categories that actually more of the general population are going to be concerned with. So if you are experiencing a lot of back pain, that can be a sign that this base of the core that we talked about, your pelvic floor muscles, are weak. You need all four parts of that square to be working strong and equally. And if your pelvic floor muscles are weakened, then other muscles in your body, usually in the back, are going to take the strain instead. So if you're experiencing a lot of back pain, it may be something to do with pelvic floor muscles. It might be worth investigating, have a chat with your doctor about it. Another thing is ongoing or chronic constipation. Again, not something people like to talk about, but if you are constantly straining to go to the toilet, you will know that you are constantly squeezing at those muscles, and eventually they're going to become weakened by that continuing strain on the bathroom, in the toilet, sorry. So again, if that is an issue for you, whether you have IBS or other bowel issues that cause you to get constipation on a regular basis or a prolonged period of time, really worth having a think about your pelvic floor muscles as well. Next category is people with chronic coughing or sneezing. Sounds really bizarre, doesn't it? But again, the abdominal pressure is being put under strain by that constant coughing and sneezing. So for example, asthmatics and smokers are people who are at risk of weak pelvic floor muscles, and maybe people with allergies who sneeze an awful lot. Sounds really bizarre, I know, but it just makes you realize that this happens to a lot of people. Okay, and then after that, people who do a lot of heavy lifting. Maybe you do a job in a warehouse and you are lifting and carrying. Maybe you work in a healthcare role and you are having to lift and carry patients quite regularly, or maybe you just like to work out at the gym a lot. But what often happens is people spike their abdominal pressure by lifting really heavy weights, holding their breath, and those pelvic floor muscles get strained. So that is a real whistle-stop tour of just some of the main groups of people that suffer with pelvic floor problems, and then actually how people more in the general population might be affected by them as well. So I hope that shed a little bit of light and made you maybe think about yourself or somebody that you know, and have a think about whether you fall into one of those categories or whether you think you might do in the future. And in our next video, we're going to talk more about what you can do to strengthen your pelvic floor muscles. So take care until then.